Hello, everyone. Welcome. SEER has a number of conferences throughout the year, and we wanted to find a new way to better connect you to our conferences. So we're going to start this series. We're going to try it out. We're going to see how it works, and your feedback is welcome. We're going to start this series really to share with you information about new and emerging issues that are discussed at our conferences, but also introduce you to our fantastic conference planning leadership. During this event, in particular today, we're going to discuss the past spring conference in Chicago, as well as some upcoming events. The Climate Litigation Virtual Summit, which is taking place in September of this year, the Fall Conference in Seattle, Washington, which is taking place in October, and then the one-day EJ Symposium that's taking place in DC at Howard University. That's taking place in November. So our conferences don't happen without the fantastic work of our section staff. So first, I want to thank them for all the work they do. Another critical role are the folks who agree to chair our conference planning committees. These individuals lead an amazing team of really SEER members, SEER volunteers to help identify panel topics, identify speakers, secure those speakers, and help really bring the panels to life. So I also want to thank them for their dedication and leadership, and you're going to hear from them today. But before we hear from our speakers, I also wanted to encourage you all to join a three-part Climate Litigation Virtual Summit. It's taking place on several days, over a number of days, from September 19th, the 26th, and then October 3rd. They're going to be 90-minute CLE programs that really cover litigation trends and cases outside the U.S., and discuss international litigation developments and how these international cases influence litigation within the U.S. Melissa Hagan is chairing that planning committee, and I just want to give a big thanks to her as well. So you're not going to hear much more from me today. You're going to hear from the amazing individuals who are, again, I want to thank them, who are leading our conference planning committees. And I'm going to first turn things over to Anna, who really led a phenomenal conference, a fantastic conference, our spring conference in Chicago. He did an amazing job chairing the spring conference, and really want to hear from you. What are some of the key takeaways and interesting things that happened at that conference?
Thanks, Jonathan. Well, I cannot believe that it is almost time for the fall conference, which just tells you how much time has already passed since the spring conference. But in that time, we've got a little bit of time to digest, reflect after the whole whirlwind is over, what the heck actually happened. And when I think back at all the panels, you mentioned all the interesting panel topics we have. I think one of the consistent strengths of the SEER conferences is how timely we are. I mean, we are on it. And it's really due to the kind of speakers that we're able to draw. I think everybody in our profession knows that this is the place to be. This is the place to learn about all the late breaking, developing issues of the day. And we had one panel that was really ahead of the curve. In particular, talking about what if PFAS substances gets designated as CERCLA hazardous by EPA. And right after the conference was over, maybe a week or two later, it's exactly what EPA did. And I was just thinking, like, I'm going to do a little hair flip and say, wow, look at us. And then on the flip side, right before the conference, the SEC finalized its climate change disclosures rule, which meant that that whole panel of speakers had to suddenly read through this whole thing, digest it, be ready to talk about it to a whole room of attendees. And that's exactly what they did. So it just tells you that the speakers that are coming to these conferences are the folks who are on top of it. They are working on these issues every day, and they're also following these long trends that we see. So just the very, very best people to come and learn from and also ask questions of. The other thing I want to mention is, in addition to some of this consistency that we have from conferences to conferences, something that we're constantly experimenting with is how can we better engage our student members? How can we better engage our younger attorney members? How do we create really innovative content that is going to be appealing to folks? And we always offer the traditional air, water, waste content. You had it in Chicago, you'll have it in the fall coming up in Seattle. And we also try and identify some of this really innovative perspective that these attorneys bring to us. And for us during the spring conference, I think the best example is probably the panel that we had on using Indigenous knowledge as evidence in litigation. It's an area of practice that is still very much developing. It is an area where we don't necessarily have uniform national standards. And so it's a place where for folks who are litigating, for folks who are finding themselves in the courtroom using Indigenous knowledge, just trying to understand how to move that forward, what are the developing standards. The other item that I think was really cool was our ethics panel that dealt with AI. And we used ChatGPT just to demonstrate to folks who hadn't played with it before. We talked through some of the cautionary tales about AI. And I think that there's a lot of anxiety out there about, is AI going to replace us as attorneys? How many more years do we have left in the field before we just get replaced by the machines? But I think where we ended up at the end of the panel was maybe AI is not going to replace you as an attorney, but a lawyer who knows how to effectively use AI might replace one that doesn't. So interesting take on the ethics there. And then besides the panels, I know like Tracy is going to talk about always trying to experiment with what else can we do to make the conferences engaging and interesting. We really focused on student engagement this time around. So we had a couple of students who were on our planning committee. We also invited a couple of students to do case presentations at the beginning of a couple of panels. You know, most of our panel speakers are experienced. They have been in the field for years, if not decades. And so it was a great opportunity to give some of our younger members an opportunity to be a part of that planning panel process. We also did a buddy system where we connected students that were registered for the conference with full-time SEER members. I had a buddy as well who I interacted with a couple of times during the conference, just a way to get folks who are new to the conferences, sort of a launching pad, somebody who could be their guide, somebody who could introduce them to other SEER members. And we also did a really fun trivia night, which Pete Keys really led. He's going to be the chair of the spring conference next year. And so all these elements, you know, it's things that we're constantly experimenting with. What's going to go well? What's going to be interesting? And the last thing I'll brag about is our chair yoga session that we did in between a couple of panels. The reason this is very self-serving, I taught it. We called it chair yoga with the chair. So again, just experimenting with how we can make conferences interesting and appealing to as broad of an audience as we can.
Thank you, Anna. And maybe we'll do a virtual chair yoga session this year. Who knows? Who knows? But I love all of the variety of ways that you all in the planning committee really engaged our members during the spring conference. It was really good. So again, thank you so much, Anna.
We loved it. It was so much fun.
So we're going to shift now. We're going to go from Chicago to Seattle, where our fall conference is scheduled to take place between October 23rd and the 25th. Turn things over to Tracy. If you could share with us kind of what you're looking forward to and what you all are kind of brewing up for this fall conference.
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. And Anna, thank you for a great spring conference. Some of your ideas I actually am incorporating into the fall conference because I think they're great. So for folks who are interested in trivia night, Pete Keys is doing that again. And I actually asked Chris Baird, a Seattle attorney, to help. So that we will be doing a trivia night again. So just wanted to put that out there. But
is it going to be in the chair suite, Tracy? I'm just curious.
I think they were looking for another place.
Okay. All right. Just checking.
Piggybacking off is something that Anna said about how timely our panels are and some of the issues that we raise. Our two plenary sessions are going to focus on two very big issues that I think all of us who practice or work in this area need to be aware of. The first plenary on Thursday is going to address recent Supreme Court cases, including Loper Bright, which obviously has a big impact on all of us. So that's going to be a great panel that's going to have some folks who are well versed in this area. So looking forward to that. On Friday, we're going to discuss AI again and kind of how attorneys can leverage that technology and use it. So those are two plenaries that I'm looking forward to. And then the planning committee has come up with some great programming. You'll find the traditional air, water, waste, but some of the things that I wanted to highlight we're doing a panel on the Bolt decision. It's the 50th anniversary of the Bolt decision, which deals with Indigenous treaty rights. And so we've got a great panel that's going to discuss the future of Indigenous treaty rights. We're also have another panel. Well, we have two panels on Thursday that are looking at the impacts of climate change in different ways. One panel is going to look at the Colorado and the Columbia rivers and lessons learned from how water is allocated and how climate change is impacting that. And so that's going to be a great panel. And then we're also going to have a discussion on climate litigation, because that is something that is not going to be going away anytime soon. And then another interesting panel is going to be on how to manage key players during an environmental catastrophe. So this is one that I'm actually really looking forward to attending, just kind of looking at the importance of notice and who you should be noticing, who you should be contacting when there is an environmental catastrophe. And so I think that panel is going to be really interesting, and hope that many of you will be joining us in Seattle. On Friday, we've got a great discussion around dam removal. Being in Seattle, being in the Pacific Northwest, there are a lot of dams, and dam removal is an issue that has recently been coming up. And so that panel is going to take a look at how dam removal and advocacy for dam removal is changing energy and natural resources law. So I think a very timely discussion. We're also going to be looking at 6-PPD and its implications. If you're not familiar with 6-PPD, that's one of those emerging contaminants, and it has a big impact on things like salmon. And obviously salmon in the Northwest is really big for a lot of different reasons. And so that is going to be discussed. We're also going to just look at tribal co-management and stewardship of state and federal lands and natural resources on Friday. And let's see. And then Friday afternoon, we have an interesting discussion on environmental justice and the permitting of energy and environmental projects. So those are some high level highlights, panels that I'm looking forward to. I would encourage everyone to go to the conference website and take a look at the entire agenda. We've got a great group of speakers, and we're really hoping that a lot of folks will come and participate. And yeah, I think I will leave it there.
No, thank you, Tracy, and you will certainly see me in Seattle. I can assure you of that. I'm very much looking forward to the fall conference in Seattle. I think it's going to be good. And as just a quick transition though, because you ended with a panel about environmental justice, and I wanted to turn things over to Stacy now to really talk about you know, as she prepares with Lawrence Pittman, and they're co-chairing this one-day conference at Howard University, focused entirely on environmental justice. And how can you just share with us kind of what you're looking forward to at this conference and what you all are planning?
Absolutely. And thank you, Tracy, for the perfect setup. That was an amazing segue. Hi, everybody. For those who haven't met me, I'm Stacy Halliday, although I see some familiar faces and names on the call. So I'm a partner at Arnold & Porter in our DC office. I am a SEER perpetual joiner. I just can't quit SEER. I'm a member of SEER Council, a member of the Environmental Justice Task Force for the ABA, and a prior EJ Vice Chair for the Climate Change Committee. But most recently, I've had this enormous honor of co-chairing ABA's first EJ Symposium and Service Day with the amazing Lawrence Pittman. I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that the idea for this conference, and importantly hosting it at Howard Law, is truly Jonathan's brainchild. This is a dream that he was kind enough to share with me a couple of months ago. And I offer sincere gratitude, Jonathan, for the opportunity to lead this hopefully first of many symposia, but for your leadership of SEER, not just now as chair, but you've been a leader for such a long time. So thank you for that. I also want to echo a lot of gratitude to the ABA staff who indulge me frequently for this preparation. Rachel, Catherine, Paula, Donna, you guys are incredible. You make all of it happen. And also to the members of our EJ Planning Committee who are on the call. I saw Shanisha's name pop up. So the conference takes place November 14th and 15th. She threw a little bit of the short straw on dates because it's a week after the election. So it's going to be a tense time. We told panelists if it was really rough, we'd serve mimosas before the conference started to kill people out, but not really. But it's an exciting time to talk about this really dynamic topic. The conference is co-hosted by SEER, the section on civil rights and social justice, and the EJ task force, which is a really great example of cross collaboration across the ABA to touch on topics that are this broad and to really get a good wide audience. The hope is really to focus, and Jonathan, jump in here, please, if I'm misstating it, but it's to really focus on how lawyers can incorporate environmental justice in their work in concrete ways, focusing on case studies, skills, specific examples, because there are a lot of conferences out there that talk about EJ, but not a lot that talk about how lawyers can really engage with the topic across a variety of disciplines in a bunch of different places in their careers, government, in-house, and private practice. We have invited speakers who are truly in the EJ trenches, so not just really senior folks, but also the folks that are dealing with this operationally day to day, including those who represent community organizations and EJ advocacy organizations, to make sure we have a wholesome conversation. As far as schedule, on the 14th, we say one-day conference, and Lawrence and I are greedy, so it's kind of a two-day conference, but it's one day. So there's a service day component on November 14th, where we're using a SEER-developed EJ curriculum to go to DC public middle schools and speak with students about environmental justice, taking about an hour or so. So I hope that folks will get involved and volunteer there. Then it'll be followed by a pre-conference reception at Howard, which is really going to focus on pipeline development. So a big theme here is also working with Howard Law and more broadly with law students across the DC area to highlight how broad this field of environmental justice can be and how you can engage with it as you begin your law school career and as your legal career develops. So the hope is to have some, EJ leaders like Charles Lee and Vernice Miller-Travis also speak with some of the folks who are really professors at Howard who are leading their EJ clinic to really highlight the breadth and depth of this work. Then the next day, November 15th, is an action-packed CLE day, kick off with breakfast and a keynote. We've invited EPA Administrator Regan, hoping that he will grace us with his presence. It would be wonderful. And then panels on sort of where are we now, which will obviously be very interesting on the 15th. A panel on government permitting, which hopefully will be a really good follow-up to the fall conference, corporate compliance, and a panel dedicated to case studies highlighting collaboration. So industry and communities and outside counsel, that sort of thing. And then we'll close it out with a closing reception. I should note that we're also working with Howard Law's been a great partner, and not just because I'm an alum, we're trying to really do what we can with that relationship for the conference. So we're going to have EJ ambassadors who are going to be current law students who are going to be helping out with program prep and on-site assistance with the conference. And final point, hope is that this is not a one-off. This is part of an ongoing conversation based out of SEER and across ABA. And to that end, we're having a pre-conference webinar on Title VI of the Civil Rights Act and enforcement efforts to advance environmental justice. And we're also discussing post-conference programs, including a free recap program that'll try and highlight some of the takeaways because the conference is not free. This will hopefully improve accessibility, particularly for community groups, government lawyers, that sort of thing. And then finally, skill-based webinars and workshops that build off of some of the feedback that we get and also touch on more skill-focused issues like drafting a community benefits agreement or grant writing for communities, that sort of thing. So that's my spiel. If anyone has any questions or ideas, please reach out. I welcome any outreach and ideas. We can only get better. So thank you, Jonathan.
Yeah, and thank you, Stacy. What I also love about the event is that this is really building upon the success of our previous one-day energy transition conference, which was also located at Howard. And it was a great opportunity to really engage local Howard Law students and law students from surrounding schools who also attended. So I'm happy to see that SEER continues to try to not only locate our events, but engage law students as well in a meaningful way. So I want to thank again, Anna, Tracy, Stacy, thank you for sharing with us today. I hope you all heard one thing that is an interest to yours that will entice you to attend one or a few of the events at the conferences that we talked about, whether it's, you know, a substantive topic or chair yoga, or a pub quiz, whatever really you're interested in. I hope you heard something today that interests you, that will entice you to join us at one of our many conferences. And I also, again, as I did at the top of the hour, encourage you all to attend the upcoming Climate Litigation Virtual Summit. I see Melissa's on. She's been doing a great job in pulling that all together. And again, want to encourage you all to attend that event and any of the other events that you heard us discuss today.